All right, guys, we are live, and I just dropped the link for Keith because he just messaged me. He'll be right here. But we have the pleasure of having on a very talented woman who has done modeling in her career, acting, and notably being the first victim and person to be flat out just straight up murdered by Michael Myers in the Halloween franchise. This is the great Sandy Johnson, who played Judith Myers in John Carpenter's Halloween. Let's bring out Sandy. Hey, how
Hey,
you doing, Sandy? How's everything?
everything is awesome.
Great, great. It's great to have you here. So yeah, as we wait for my buddy to get here, what initially got you into? I know you started doing modeling first before you got into acting, right?
Right?
What initially got you into that? Because eventually, I mean, you became Playmate of the year, right? Or of the month,
No,
Playmate of the month.
not of the year, of the month. Yes.
Yes, yes.
And right, June of 74.
Okay.
Well, from a very young age, I thought it would be fun to be a model. And I had an uncle who thought it was fun that I wanted to do that. So he arranged for me to be in some fashion shows and different things. And so that's kind of where it started. I was just, like walking the ramps and all of that. And then I started getting hired to do photography, clothes modeling, and the like, and beauty contests and those sort of things. So that's where it started. And then I was selected to be in Playboy. So that is what kind of uh, set me on a bigger stage for acting.
Absolutely. When you first started, uh, after you got, I guess you became Playmate in '74, and then what was the first film that you did? Here's my buddy Keith. The first film that you did after that, was it Halloween or you did something before that,
Mm,
right?
no, it was either
Hey, Keith.
H.O.T.S or Gas Pump Girls. Hi.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yep, pretty good. Just trying to hurry. Had to get a lot of things together here. My furnace went out, so I had to go and run and get the kerosene because we're here in Indiana, and you know how cold it is right now. So I had to make sure I was taken care of, and I'm running a little late.
We,
Sorry,
yeah, we
sorry
were
about that.
just saying, we were just talking about the cold, and I said it's freezing here in New York too. Everywhere, it's cold everywhere in the country right now for
Yeah.
some reason. In
And we're
most
not ready
places.
for it in Texas. We're never ready for it in Texas.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen that there in Texas. It's all the way down in southern Texas, isn't it?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, that's what's amazing is normally if it is going to hit, it's North Texas, which is where I live, but it's like it's all down in like Houston and close to the ocean. That is really rare.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy weather just across the board everywhere.
Of
But
course,
Yeah, I
it's
I
Keith,
fine with me. They can have it.
yeah, no, exactly. But yeah, Keith, we were just talking about her modeling career briefly, and then
okay.
how she started getting into acting. And so you said, what were the first movie that you
Uh,
remember being in?
there was jokes my folks never told me, and then I think either Hots or Gas Pump Girls were the
Okay,
main ones.
so how did it all start with getting involved and getting cast as Judith in Halloween and meeting John Carpenter? The first time you heard from, met John Carpenter, the first time you read the script. Tell us about how all that started.
I was with the Playboy agency, and John Carpenter contacted the agency and said he was looking for a lady that would be interested in getting killed naked.
There you go.
I don't know if they put it to me exactly that way, but that's basically what he needed.
Yeah.
So I got called in on an interview, and it was kind of interesting because they were actually shooting the film in another part of the house. So it was where all the babysitters were getting killed.
Mm.
And so I could hear what they were doing. And then when they stopped filming, he wanted me to scream, which was thinking, all I could think about was the neighbors, because all this screaming is going on in the back of the house, and then I'm screaming in the front of the house, and
Like,
it's
what the
just a
hell is going
residential.
on over there?
It's
Yeah, 'cause
just a
you guys are
residential
shooting on
neighborhood.
location. Yeah, because you're shooting
That's
on
that's funny.
location. So yeah.
Yeah, the neighbors are probably thinking people are actually getting murdered over there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So, do you remember the first time you read the script for it, and like what were your thoughts on reading it and the story in general? Even though you're in,
Um,
just the very beginning, you're very important. You're
well,
integral,
what's
I would say, to Michael's entire character. Just his
right.
sister and his first murder that kicks off this entire franchise that's been so
Yes,
successful
that
and
character.
just insane how
That
long
character
this
is
has gone
mentioned
on.
in every film. In every film, it's because he's there because he killed his sister when he was 6 years old. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole
Yep.
basis of it.
Right.
Without that, you wouldn't have
It's
it.
it's almost like your character became a ghost story in Haddonfield, like
Moon,
after that,
moon.
because like if people would refer to the house as and like the legend, almost they would throw details on top of it, and it would be, this is where the girl was murdered in 63. So it's almost like you became like this, your murder in this show in the movie became yeah, just like this ghost story.
Your
So you're
Yeah.
like
tombstone
a
is
little
even
bit of a
iconic.
legend
You
to
know,
it.
your tombstone's even everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
he,
the thing is, on the script, they keep scripts very quiet. And
yeah.
I didn't actually know the whole story. I knew my part of the story, but I really
What was
didn't know the whole story until the premiere. So I'm
I
sitting in the
wondered
audience
that.
having no
I wondered.
idea about what's going to happen. I had no idea that he grew up to be a serial killer or anything like that. I didn't know
Wow.
who else was in the film. It was all very quiet. And so, needless to say, it scared the hell out of me.
So
Yeah,
so the script that you used was different than the people in like in Jamie Lee Curtis and all them. Yours only covered
Yeah,
your
I didn't.
character.
I just had my sides, which is
Oh,
just my lines.
yeah.
And
That's what I wasn't sure of. I was interested to know that. So thanks for bringing that up. If you got the entire script, or if you just knew that for some reason my younger brother, put a mask on Halloween night and murdered me after having the
right,
shortest sex
right.
ever in horror history with my boyfriend,
Yeah, that
and
lame,
that's all
lame.
I
Yeah.
know, or if you actually did read the entire script. And so that's very interesting to hear
right.
that.
Sure.
Yeah. So I didn't ever read the entire script. I just saw the movie.
So
And
that's actually a cool way to do it, really. You know what I mean? That way,
yeah,
you're seeing it along with everybody else for the first time. So you're like, oh wow, my little brother that killed me
Right.
ended up becoming even worse when he got bigger.
Yeah, it was interesting to see it for the first time along with most of the other people who hadn't seen it that were there. So it was very scary.
Would you have preferred more? I mean, would you prefer to your character to be bigger? Well, I mean, not just for the work and just for the passion.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out.
yeah, you're cutting
Say
out
it
a bit,
again.
Keith.
Well, am I? Well, no. What I was saying was, would you have preferred
You're
your
better now.
character to have been bigger, to have done more,
Yes.
or
Okay.
Oh, of
I mean,
course.
I mean, not just for the money, but just the passion of it, just for the work.
Sure. Yes, I would have loved to have been able to develop that character more if it was just Judith that got expanded, or obviously to have played one of the other babysitters.
That's something else I was going to ask you. Which one of the three would you like to have played?
Um, I kind of liked Annie.
She was feisty one.
She's always been my favorite.
Yeah,
She's
I
always
like
been
her
my favorite.
personality.
I love Jamie Lee Curtis and PJ Souls, but I mean
PJ's my favorite.
everyone's with Lori. Yeah, he loves PJ, and I always thought the character of Annie was just the most charming character, charming woman in that
Right.
movie.
I mean, I
She
love
just
PJ. We're good friends. I love her to pieces,
she
and
was
Annie also. I'm good friends with her too. But
It's
one
great because
thing
I
I
know.
learned
Sure. Yeah,
that
go
was
ahead.
kind of interesting is I was at a convention and I was thinking about they had always said that we wore our own clothes. And I
yeah.
kept looking at that pink outfit I had on, and I didn't remember those being my clothes. And so Nancy Loomis says, well, they weren't your clothes, they were my clothes. So I was
I,
actually wearing
great.
her clothes.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
I've
go
never
ahead.
done it, but I would love one of these days. I would love to interview PJ because I've seen her in interviews and she seems like such a sweetheart. So
She is
yeah,
an absolute
Oh,
doll. She's usually right next to me at conventions, so it's really fun.
cool.
yeah. I mean, no one could have seen, just like with any movie, when you guys were filming this over what it was 20 days, I think, could have blown up into what it became. And I'm sure there were multiple times in your life, since that movie came out, that there was a resurgence of that too. That I'm sure there was the initial, like, what was the initial feeling when you first realized that, like, wow, this movie is kind of more than just this little indie movie, that low budget film that we were making. And then I'm sure there probably were other times, maybe a decade, 2 decades later, it's like, what? This thing was really getting insane. Like how much this franchise keeps going and how it resonates
Right.
with the fans. Like, how did all that feel on those occasions?
Well, the interesting thing is that I left Hollywood just a couple years after that. I had
Mhm.
some tragedy in my life, and I was very depressed and sad, and I ended up moving back to Texas and got a whole nother life as a teacher. So I really didn't follow it. Um, and then I guess it's been about 7 years ago now when my agent found me. He'd been looking for me for about 10 years. So when he found me, it was quite an awakening for me because I was very busy as a teacher. I was getting a PhD. I was doing all kinds of stuff that had nothing to do with Hollywood or movies. And whenever he told me that there had been multiple Halloweens and that it was like famous all over the world and that I had fans, I'm just like thinking, this guy's delusional.
Wow. So you
But when
didn't
I got
know.
off the phone with him, I looked it all up and I went, whoa. So
I'm a
needless to
stoner.
say, I ended up going with him. He is my agent still. He's wonderful.
Oh,
But
that's
my
great.
shock was really just one big one in 2018.
No, that's great. That's a great story. And because I knew that you left Hollywood and left acting and all that for a while, like a decent while. So I know that's why I phrased it in that way of like, right after the movie came out, there was probably that, wow, this movie's like doing insanely well, in theaters. Then there was what you said, 2018, I guess is what you said is when you really felt like this entire thing is like much more than I ever imagined it was. Which I
Right.
guess answers the question. Have you ever been a big horror fan? I guess not too much of one.
Actually, I was a big horror fan.
Oh, yeah?
My dad was a horror fan, and even when I was little, he took me to see the first one I can remember was The Blob, and it was at a drive-in movie in Oklahoma, and it was pouring rain and hailing, and I was scared to death. And I kept thinking, I was in the back seat, and I kept thinking that the blob was going to come through the window where the thing fits on the window from the drive-in movie. I
Right.
Yeah.
didn't take my eyes off of that crack in the window. So that's kind of where it started. And then whatever happened to Baby Jane, I think he took me to see, and that pretty much scarred me for life.
That's a great
So he
movie. I
was,
haven't seen that in years.
yeah, yes. So he was definitely a big horror fan, and he put that in me. So the whole time I was in school when I was younger, my girlfriends and I, would get together and watch horror movies and all of that. So yeah, I was definitely a horror fan.
Oh, okay. So, well, I guess also back then you don't realize how big something is because it was in the days, even which is the very last generation that I was in, that I grew up without the internet or anything like that.
Right.
And like in my teen years, maybe is when the internet was, really starting to come around, and everybody had it and grew and grew and grew. But back then, I guess you wouldn't really know outside especially if you're outside of the entertainment industry, you wouldn't really know
Right.
how big that particular franchise has gotten.
Yeah, you are
Right.
iconic. Yeah, you have become iconic. You know what I mean? Your name is right there, just as
Yeah,
big. I mean, it's talked about on a regular basis. Anytime anyone ever talks about Halloween, it's Judith Myers, and you know what I mean? It's like
yep.
people see you, and they go, "Hey, look, it's Judith." It's like, well, no, not really, but yeah.
Well, I think it's just because, I mean, like we said, it's just one of the most integral parts of the original movie and the whole series, and Michael's character is
Right.
your murder in the movie. And so every time that there's a sequel or every time that there's a reboot, and I mean, like I said, this is my third favorite movie of all time, Carpenter's original. I'm not a big fan of the entire franchise. I feel like it flip flops in quality as it goes down the line for sure. So, I mean,
Right.
I never liked the whole brother and sister thing that they do in part two, and Keith has never liked it either. Yeah, a few of us have.
No, I didn't like that either.
It
Michael
takes
had
away
one
all
sister.
the mystique and the
Yeah,
mystery of
not
the
a fan.
The
yeah.
mystery.
Yep.
Like we talk about putting ourselves in the character's place when we watch a film, and we like to think about what they're thinking and what they're going through. And we
Absolutely.
did that, of course, with your character too, what you may be thinking, and I loved your reaction. It's like, you're mad. Michael, what are you doing in here? You're sitting with your shirt off. Your little brother comes in. Michael, what are you're not supposed to come in here like this. And then it kind of changes to Michael, you know what I mean? Because all of a sudden you notice he's got a knife. It's like, what are you doing? And I just
Right.
thought that was brilliant. That tone you used there was like an oncoming growing fear, and then it's like you get frenzied. I mean, so I like to put myself in those characters places. Just about it. That's the way I analyze characters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right on that because I mean it's also just the way it's shot too. The opening minutes of that movie, and because it's Carpenter, also. I mean, one of the greatest directors in horror in history, in my opinion, film history,
Absolutely.
and just the way the suspense is built up and the point of view camera that was very. We got it in like Peeping Tom and stuff like that, like earlier in the early '60s, but it was the first, like one of the first with Black Christmas to do it in the slasher format and the point of view of the killer, and the way the music, the iconic score, which at this point it's like you play the first two notes of that theme, just the and 99% of people, if not 100, are going to know exactly what that theme is. That's Halloween,
You
even if they've
betcha.
never
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
the movies, even if they saw the movie original once back in the day, or as a kid or something, like younger generations growing up now, they still know and they know who Michael Myers is. And that's how big of a social impact that the franchise has had. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's got to be insane to like live through that and just to experience it. And like you said, so much later on than you really, thought about it beforehand, thinking that like, I did this movie back then. Yeah, it got very popular, did very well. But it's like, wow, there's like a whole world out there that it just like worships this franchise, and for good reason. What was it like working with John and Deborah? Those two especially, because and me and Keith always
It was
say
so
that
young.
Deborah never gets enough credit with
Oh, she
that
doesn't.
John does with
Right.
Halloween, with wwriting Halloween.
Her
But
name
Right.
should be
She
in the name
was,
with his.
they
just
were both amazing, really. They worked very closely together. They were there the whole time, side by side, uh, talking about staging and what emotion they wanted and the feel of each shot and the transition from one, um, shot to another and how they wanted that to go. So, yeah, it was great. They were both um, very enthusiastic, very clear about what they wanted. yeah, it was great to work with both of them. I feel very lucky.
She created all the teenage stuff and all that and everything like that. She took it from her experience.
Yeah, like all the dialogue, you wouldn't have
Yeah.
such organic because it's so organic, the dialogue in that
Right.
film between
Tom-
Yep.
the female friends, and I mean all the dialogue. I mean Loomis's stuff is just so ominous, like most of the time. Which is the late great Donald Pleasance, which he's just phenomenal in everything that he did. Which he was somebody else that just it shows that nobody sees a movie or a project or anything like that becoming anything the way that this movie and this franchise has. Is that he was just stopping by for a few days to film for another movie, and he was in maybe 200 plus movies, and a lot of them horror films in his career. So he was just
Right.
probably stopping by and saying, "All right, I'm shooting this independent movie 3-4 days and stuff like that, and then move on to the next project." And
Well, it's
then
all the
that's
little things,
what
man.
he's known for. That's like his legacy. You know, it's
I
it's
know.
actor, but
You never know.
Donald Pleasant is Dr. Sam Loomis. Like that's just what he's remembered for the most. And it's just for
Absolutely.
3-4 days that he stopped off to film there.
Makes it
Yeah,
more than
that's funny.
slasher, in my opinion. You
It's
know what I mean?
wild.
It's all little nuances. It's the fact that they put their minds together, and she created this, he created that, and then you had all these layers. To me, it's a lot more than just a slasher. You know what I mean? It's not just some knife movie. There's a lot going on in there. I always thought the heading
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
should say
me and
John
Keith
Carpenter
never consider it a
and
slasher
Deborah
movie.
Hill's Halloween. She should be in the heading with him, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill's Halloween. That's what I've always thought, because
Yeah.
she's just as responsible as he is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely. I agree.
yeah, we oh, I just thought of something and then it just left my mind. Something that you said, Keith. But no, it's just it's really fascinating the way that just the like I was saying, the way that it's shot and the way with the score and all of that, the way that it builds up, that's what makes the opening of this movie so memorable. And that's lived on and influenced countless movies throughout the decades after this. I mean, we wouldn't have the Friday the 13th series and the slasher craze of the 80s if it wasn't for a few other movies and some earlier ones, but especially this film with Halloween. And I think it's what were we going to say, Keith?
Well, I'm saying it was the timing of Halloween. It was a
Yeah.
perfect movie at the perfect time.
Yeah,
You know, and he just
basically.
got it rolling. Yeah.
But yeah, we wouldn't have had the slasher craze of the 80s, or at least anywhere near the level that we did if it wasn't for Halloween. Because I mean, we've had, and I love the Friday series. I mean, that's my favorite slasher series. And like I said, the whole Halloween franchise as a whole, I'm iffy on a lot of it, but that's for another conversation. But the original, yeah, exactly. Like and just too many timelines. We got what, 5 timelines or something? Some shit in the series at this point. It's
Right.
like 5 different ones. Same with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is not a series I'm big on either. We got a whole bunch of timelines going on there. But Friday has always been like out of major slashers my favorite, and we wouldn't have Friday the 13th without Halloween. I mean, they've openly admitted from the beginning that they were ripping off Halloween's success. So I mean, it just shows how influential this movie was.
But as far as the first Halloween movie goes, no one quite nailed it. You know what I mean? Friday the 13th and all of them are great, but they did not.
Oh yeah.
They did not nail that tension. They did not nail that atmosphere that Halloween did. Like Halloween, kind of like you could tell that John Carpenter was a big Hitchcock fan, because he took like Sandy was pretty much the Janet Leigh like in Psycho. You know what I mean? She was taken out just taken out quicker. You know what I mean?
Right.
For poor Judith, everything was a little too quick. You know what I mean? I always felt bad for Judith. It's like, damn it, she's getting gypped and everything.
No, yeah, like we said, it's like the catalyst of the character and the story.
That pathetic boyfriend, I don't know.
Yeah, he's a master with mystery and suspense and gotchas, and he just he's all over the place without having any blood at all. He just scares the hell out of you.
That and the score, he puts the scores in the perfect
Oh
place.
yeah, the music, of course.
The music
stinger,
is what elevates that film to just a pure masterpiece of art. Is the score. I mean, I think this often to myself, would I love this movie as much as I do after all these years if it didn't have the score in it, and it had some just completely other score, and it had not this exact and wasn't this one. But then I think about how much I love everything in this movie. It's just flawless for me. It's perfection. And I say no, like even if it had a different score, it would still be one of my favorite films ever made. But the score is just what elevates a lot of the suspense and the tension, and that's what we see in the opening few minutes with your character in this film.
Just sound in
Right.
general. Sound in general, like for instance with Black Christmas, there's no real music. It's just sounds like hitting on the piano. Dang,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
just different little
There's
things.
no,
Man.
it's
so
a
important.
totally different
Yeah.
experience with the music, with the score in the film from Black Christmas,
No,
which is what I think added more to the slasher craze boom as well, because then all those movies had their dramatic scores and stuff like that with the strings and shrieks, but none of that ever reached that same. As a musician my whole life, the same, in my opinion, just brilliant composition that Carpenter always did with all of his scores for the most part throughout his career.
Right.
now, did you want to be a model or an actress when you was growing up, when you was a kid? I mean, what was it you wanted to do? I mean, did you go the way you wanted?
Originally, when I was young, I wanted to be a dancer. So I took
Okay.
dance lessons, jazz, and then when I got into college, or actually high school, I was in dance production and I helped choreograph some of the school dance, modern dance and like that. And I was in drama as well. So I kind of really liked all the arts, but
Dance
I
class.
really wanted to be a dancer. And then things just changed along the way because the other things were giving me the opportunities. So I
Okay.
went. So I went the modeling first and then the acting.
Did you have a lot of support at home growing up, helping you go for it? And you know what I mean?
My mother was amazingly supportive. She really was.
Oh,
My dad passed away pretty
Oh,
young,
sorry.
but
Sorry.
so he would not have liked Playboy. I can tell you that.
Right. Right. Right.
But my mother was always there. She was a great fan, whatever I did. And unfortunately, she died pretty young too, but she was definitely a big supporter.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. It's a bummer.
Yeah, I miss them still.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet. I bet.
yeah, and I mean that's just great to hear though that she supported it so much and supported your passions
That's so
and your
important, man.
aspirations.
That's
Oh,
so important.
absolutely. I
And then
mean,
I had one sister that was very supportive also.
Oh, was she
oh,
older?
great. What
Say
was
it
that, Keith?
again.
You broke up.
Was she was she your older sister or younger? Or older?
They're all older sisters. I was the baby,
Oh, you the baby.
and
Okay.
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, that would
She
have been
was the
fun.
one she was the one I was closest to. She just, I was her baby sis, and she just was always in support of whatever I wanted to do. So her and my mom were great support.
Did you feel comfortable with the whole, I don't really know how to put it, but did you know that you was going to be shirtless in it before you did it, and was you comfortable with that? Did it take a little, did you have to build up to do it, or was you? Well, you'd already done Playboy, but I mean, as far as
Yeah.
being on film, that's a little different.
Yeah, I was fine with it. It was a small set. We were upstairs, so there weren't very many people there.
Yeah,
And yeah, it was fine.
yeah, that's something I was going to ask also, or at least.
Oh,
Well,
sorry about that.
No, not at all. I figured it would come up because I mean, it's a common question. I'm sure you've probably gotten that question many times, Andy. Right?
Um,
Kind of comes with the territory.
Playboy was much more out there. I mean, we did nude
Well,
scenes
yeah,
on the beach and
yeah.
all over the place. So,
That's what I would
yeah, it
imagine.
was it was pretty low key to what I had done through Playboy.
Was a Playboy fun like they make it look, or was it? I mean, was everybody loose and cool? And I mean,
Yeah, I had a wonderful experience with Playboy. Mario Casilli was an amazing photographer, very talented. And yeah, I loved being able to travel and do store openings and just, I was always invited to either of the mansions, which was a nice perk.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean,
So
it's
yeah, it
crazy.
was definitely a good experience for me. And of course, it had a lot to do with my success as well.
you did a film where you was a DJ and you could hear mainly your voice in a film a couple of years ago, and I noticed Diane Franklin was in it, and I hadn't seen her
Uh-huh.
in years. That short, and I was just blown away. I was like, well, you know,
I know
Par-
what you mean. What's the name of
Paradolia.
that? Okay,
yeah,
yeah. I've seen.
Yes.
that's kind of
Yeah, that
creepy.
was, I actually went there for the premiere in London. We had a blast.
Oh,
We went pub hopping and it was
Yeah,
just great fun. Such nice people.
yeah.
oh,
I
that's
was always
great.
thinking of Diane too. You know, you got Amityville 2, Last American Virgin, Better Off Dead. Diane Franklin's definitely a part of her growing up as well, just like Sandy is.
Yeah,
Amityville
they had
2 is
great
that's in
people.
the series. You know, you
Yeah, I've
mentioned
done
that.
several films now.
Yeah, I mean, what's the last project that you did as an actress?
The very last one I did a couple months ago in Las Vegas. It was with a green
Awesome.
screen, and I was a newscaster reporting on some murders that had taken place in a massage parlor. It's called the Massage Parlor Massacres.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then it's actually the director and the writer are Canadian. It's a Canadian film. And then I did another one a few months before that in Florida called The Dolls of Deceit. And in that one, I am a mother in law and not very well liked by my son in law.
Huh.
Good role, though. And then I would say my favorite role of the last couple of years is in a film called The Executioner, also in Florida. But in that one, I am a psychiatrist. And it's really a great role. I love it, and it has a big twist in it. And one of them, I'm just being the psychiatrist, and then another part of it, I'm actually in a dream that my client is having. So that's where the real terror is for me, and the two contrasting things in it. So it's really fun, great role, challenging, and I think it's going to be a good film.
I
Okay,
can
and
hear a
when
lot
does
of
that come
passion.
out? When does that come out?
They are finishing up shooting now, actually, probably for the
That's
next
cool.
month or two. So hopefully it won't be too much longer. But yeah, it's got some really good people in it.
And
I can hear a
what's the
lot of
name again
passion in
for
your voice.
everyone in the chat and people who watch this in the
The
future? What's
executioner, the
Executioner?
execution.
Executioner, guys. So yeah, look out
Mhm.
for that. For when that
Oh,
comes
she
out for
really
sure.
enjoys it. You tell she really enjoys what she does, man. You can hear the
Oh
passion.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
You
She's
you
smiling the whole
can
time she's
always.
talking about it, you know?
I always say this that you can always tell someone's
Oh,
passion for anything. It's something you can't fake. Like
right.
you can't fake passion. So anytime like just someone's either just talking about movies that they love or music or bands that they love or talking about their favorite their careers that they adore and they love doing and stuff. You can't fake that. You can
You
instantly
cannot
tell
manipulate
when
people.
somebody's doing something for other reasons other than
Yes.
loving what they do.
Right.
It's always apparent. I think the human race, we just have maybe just evolved that way to detect that, and it's very
You can
genuine.
feel it. You
Well,
can feel it.
I
Yeah,
appreciate all the opportunities of, I mean, I've made several films now, and then I've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 more that I'm supposed to be making throughout the
Oh,
year. So I've got a lot of scripts to get memorized.
that's great, and it's great to see you back in in this industry and acting again and then being in a lot of films. And I mean, having 5 projects to coming all this year that you're going to be filming, that's amazing. I mean,
It
that's
is.
one hell of a comeback, and it shows, like Keith said, like your enthusiasm for all of it.
oh, it is.
Yeah, well, it's
Joe said,
exciting for me because my early on years, of course, like I said, were cut short with the death of my parents and all of the
Yeah,
stuff that was going on. And so it actually was off to a very good start. And then my life just fell apart. And so
yeah.
it's coming back together at the other end of my life. So it's
cool.
good.
That's
That's
good.
great. I mean, I think that happens to almost everyone in some way.
It does.
That there's that period when just things are going great, then things just seem like it's at its darkest. Then it just blooms into, I guess,
Yes.
something brighter after that, and then like
Right.
Can
this
only guarantee,
rejuvenated outlook or
can only
awakening,
guarantee, man,
if
it
you're
has to balance
spiritual.
itself. It has to balance itself. It can't stay too great too long. And then when things are
Right.
at the absolute worst, something good eventually is going to happen, going to knock you out of it. That's why you can't give
Right.
up. You can't give up because if you give up, you're going to miss what the good that comes next. You know what I mean? That's what, when I go through something bad, I always say, man, I got to get through this because it's going to be good in the end. You know?
Right. Yeah, I just did another film. It was just shot here at my house with with my phone, but it's called
Nice.
The Farmhouse Murders.
Isn't it amazing
And
what you can do with technology today?
Yeah.
yeah, and
Huge.
I think it's going to be good too.
Oh,
Excellent.
and the
The,
farmhouse
the
murders. I
farmhouse.
love the name.
Yeah, The Farmhouse Murders. And I'm a mother, and I've had tragedy in my life, and I'm making a recording that to send off to somebody. So
Are you interested
I
in
think
playing
it's
the
going to be good.
antagonist? Or are you
Huh?
ever interested in playing the bad guy? Are you ever
No,
interested
no,
in that?
no. The tragedy happens to me, and I'm
No,
just talking
no.
about it on a video.
Well, no, no, no. I'm saying, are you ever interested in playing the bad guy, being
Oh,
the villain?
absolutely. I'd love to
That would
play
be
the villain.
fun. Hell yeah! Have you ever done that
Oh, it's
before?
got to be a blast. I mean, just looking at some iconic performances in the past of just some serial killers and just Tony Montana, Al Pacino, one of the greatest performances I think ever. Like it's got to be a blast playing the bad guys as
Every
an
Yep,
actor says
actor.
that. Every actor says
I
it's the most
agree.
fun they had was being the bad guy. They always say that's the most fun they ever had, was being the villain.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I
Anytime I'm
love
on limit.
psychological thrillers, so I would love the
Yes.
opportunity to be in a psychological thriller and be the bad guy.
Yeah,
Joseph wants to
that
know
would
what
be
her
great to see.
favorite horror
I
movie
love them
is.
too.
Joseph wants to know what her favorite horror movie ever is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we want to be respectful of your time, Sandy. And I have one question, Keith, if you have any more after this, but let's do Joe's first. Sandy, what is your favorite horror movie?
Oh my God, that's such a hard one.
I know, right?
Um, I mean, obviously, I have to say Halloween, but outside of Halloween, one of my very favorites is The Shining.
Oh
Okay,
yes,
that's definitely a
yes,
worthy
yes,
contender.
Yeah,
yes.
I love that one. I find it very disturbing.
It's a
My,
masterpiece.
yeah,
Yes,
it is. Even though I'm not as big on it as a lot of people are, it is a masterpiece of a film for sure. But John Carpenter's The Thing is actually my favorite film of all time. So Carpenter has 2 movies in, well, my 2 top horror films are The Thing and Halloween. But if we're talking all movies, then there's one movie at number 2 that separates them. But to have that same director with 2 movies in your top 3 movies of all time, I mean, it really says something about that director and his whole
Absolutely.
body of work.
Well, I have so many I like. I mean, it's just really hard. I like different
Oh, yeah.
things about different movies. So it's really hard to pick, because then I'll watch another one and then I think, well, maybe this is my favorite, or maybe that's my
I know,
favorite.
and it never ends, and especially with today, with the streaming services and how accessible everything is, and especially older films and films from other
Right.
countries that if that came out in the 70s, 80s, that you would have never seen if it wasn't for those movies getting released on physical media or being on streaming services. A lot of the Italian horror movies and Japanese horror. So, I mean, everything's so much more accessible today. So everyone could check out a lot more movies and a
Right.
lot conveniently. So they get to just see so many different things. I mean, that's what I do every day is just talk about a different movie. And it's like, there's just that thousands and thousands and thousands. And then there's more, and then there's just more and more after that. So, I mean, you can never see it all. And so there's always a unique experience out there.
That's for sure.
I've only got one that I'm curious about, if it's cool and you got the time.
Sure.
Do you like Dario Argento and things like the in the giallo horror era or genre? Is that anything that you ever wanted to do? Was work with Fulci or Argento or Mario Bava or any of them?
I don't know who that is.
Really? Are you aware? Well, like Dario Argento did opera, Suspiria, movies like that.
I've
Suspiria,
heard of
They're
them,
like
but I have not seen them.
they're like the big Italian horror directors from the
Oh,
70s.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess I need to watch some of them.
Oh yeah, you
So,
should.
yeah,
We are huge fans here of Italian horror for sure.
Bava
Cool.
did,
I'll
Bay of
send
Blood.
you a recommendation list on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. You
Cool.
gotta
Some
see
classic
those.
ones.
If you're a horror fan, you got to see them. If you're a horror fan, you got to see
All right, and hey, what's up, Ginger? Question for Sandy: is there any particular director you would love to work with? Good question.
I'd like to work with John Carpenter again, now that it's a different time.
That's actually a great question, Ginger, because that leads into my question here that I had to end this is if there was some way of either, I don't know how they would do it, because I mean your character's dead as shit. So I mean, I don't know how they'd bring it back unless it was another remake or something that they did, and who knows, because this series is never ending. And if you were in some way to come back and reprise Judith Myers' role in some way, if they did an origin story or something on Michael as a kid, or who knows, because we see a lot of that happening now. I mean,
Be a
Right.
ghost or something.
we have the Crystal Lake series coming, the Friday the 13th series, which is an origin story and stuff. So I mean, like, we see a lot of prequels and origin story shows coming out. So who knows if we ever see this? But if you ever come back, even as a cameo in a Halloween film, I'm sure you'd love to do it, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, just to work with Carpenter in general would
Yep.
definitely be great to see anything with you involved
I
again.
did a panel with him in gosh, where were we? I can't remember. It was a con back east somewhere. Anyway, it's on YouTube, I think. But it was just him and I, because we were the only Halloween people there. So I got to do a panel with just John Carpenter, which was amazing. And
Oh yeah, no,
I was scared to death going into it, thinking, oh my God, nobody's going to ask me a single question. Who would, with John Carpenter there? And actually, I got some questions, and he was so nice about it, and just made me feel at home and everything. So it actually turned out to be a very nice experience, and it's a good interview with him, by the way.
Oh, that's great. And because yeah, did you stay even because since you got out of that world for a while? Did you stay? Did you talk to John often, or now and then, or how often did you really talk to John Carpenter? Over the decades.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I see the other casts, and of course, if he's um, there, I'm going to talk to him and stuff. The
yeah,
other
of course.
cast I have, especially PJ, I keep in touch with PJ,
Yeah,
and the others, of course, I visit with when we're all together. It's a ton of fun. But as far as outside of conventions and things, I think PJ's the only one that I uh,
yeah,
talk to.
yeah. That's what I gathered just from that you telling about the interview. So it's like it didn't seem like you kept regularly in touch, but you never know. I mean, I wondered if you maybe talk to him outside of conventions. But all right, that's pretty much it, guys. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Like I said, Sandy, thank you so much for doing this. It's been a
Thank you.
blast
Thank you.
Of course.
talking with you,
Great
and
to meet you. Nice to
yeah,
meet you.
definitely a pleasure to meet you and an honor to have you on here. And
Yeah.
yeah, guys, look out for those movies that she has coming out. If you want to say the names again, I know The Executioner.
The Executioner, Farmhouse Murders. I
Farmhouse
also
Murder.
did one called Vulps, The Lust for Revenge. I did The Doll for Deceit, The Doll of Deceit, Paradolia. Against so many, I can't name them all. The Massage Parlor Massacres. And then I have Halloween Shark and
Halloween Shark. That's
yeah,
interesting.
that one. I haven't filmed that one yet, but it's coming up.
Nice.
Oh, shoot. I know there's others on there. They're all listed on my website though.
Yeah, I
And
was just gonna
that
say if there's
is
any links, social media links and stuff that people can follow you, website, anything like that, then I'll send it to me after this, and I'll put it in the description of the
okay.
video.
I
But
can do that.
can't thank you enough. Just hang on after I end the stream, and we'll thank you again. But everybody, thanks for watching. Everyone in the future, thanks for watching. This has been the great Sandy Johnson. Everyone have a great night. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye.